Welcome back to another Wordy Wednesday. Well, today our topic is a fun one. We're going to talk about malaprops, their sort of stepchildren, Eggcorns, and their first cousins, Spoonerisms. And how we got here was a simultaneous request without any consultation from two viewers last week on Wordy Wednesday. One said, hey, how about malaprops? And another said, hey, I've got this friend who... And it turns out that they're both talking about the same thing. So let's consider this a command performance when we come back. First things first, we are talking about some speech errors. And I need to be very, very clear. There are illnesses and disabilities that can cause this sort of speech error. This is not what we're talking about. This is not, have at it and let's mock people with disabilities. You want that? Don't go to the blind woman for it. But we are talking about something that is sometimes unintentional, sometimes fun. At Oxford, in the early part of the 20th century, they actually made a game of it. So just keep that in mind. This is not an adventure in picking at people who have the inability to translate what's in their head until it comes out of their mouth. It's not what this is about. So let's start with malaprops. Now, malaprops are also known as malapropisms. We're going to stick with the term malaprop because, as you know from previous Wordy Wednesdays, I crawl all over the British for adding their extra syllables. So we're not going to do that here. And the name comes from a play by Richard Brinsley Sheridan in 1775. So this is how long this concept has been with us. And it's probably a good idea to remember that back in the 19th century, word games were the rage. There was no television, no radio. They didn't even have Victrolas in the early part of the 18th century. So if you were going to do something entertaining, it was because you were a clever and elegant speaker and could think quickly on your feet, or on your tongue, as it were. Now, Sheridan's 1775 play was called The Rivals. Nothing interesting about this play to modern playgoers at all, with the exception of one character, a comic character, named Mrs. Malaprop, which probably came from malappropriate. In other words, not just inappropriate, but badly inappropriate. And the character of Mrs. Malaprop would throw the wrong word into her sentence, and as a result she would come up with comical lines. So Mrs. Malaprops weren't particularly stunning, so we're not going to talk about those. We are going to get right into it so that you can see what I mean, and then we'll do a little discussing about a good malaprop. Those of you from my generation will remember this. Democratic National Convention, late 60s, Chicago Mayor Richard Daley, who did in fact say this. This is not made up. The police are not here to create disorder. They are here to preserve disorder. Honestly, It's what the man said. Now, we naturally presume that he meant to say the police were not there to create disorder, they were there to prevent disorder, but it was Richard Daley, so I wouldn't bet the farm on that. But that is a good malaprop. A good malaprop not just substitutes the wrong word, but it does so with a comic or ironic effect. And in this case, preserve and prevent, we're looking at just completely opposite intentions. So that is a classic malaprop. And fortunately, it's not like a made-up malaprop. Somebody said something. No, this came out of his mouth. So I've got a list of these because some of them are really good. Thomas Marino, who was mayor of Boston, had said he was a man of great stature. Obviously, he meant stature. And for the rest of these, I'm just going to drop the words in so that you can see them. Wes Westrom, he's a ball player. Well, that was a cliff dweller. One of the characters in The Sopranos, create a little dysentery among the ranks. Now, that, of course, was a made-up malaprop because it was written for a television show. Gib Lewis, Texas Speaker of the House. This is unparalleled in the state's history. And now, for the list, George W. Bush. It will take time to restore chaos and order. Now, this is always on malaprop lists. I have no idea where he was going with this because it doesn't seem to me on the surface that it actually fits a malaprop, but it could be I'm just not seeing what was supposed to be said. The law I signed today directs new funds to the task of collecting vital intelligence on weapons of mass production. Classic. They have miscalculated me as a leader. I am mindful not only of preserving executive powers for myself, but for my predecessors as well. And that one is beyond charming. We need an energy bill that encourages consumption. We cannot let terrorists and rogue nations hold this nation hostile or hold our allies hostile. And you can't go into a topic like this without the Zen master Yogi Berra. Texas has a lot of electrical votes. Now, because that's a yogiism, naturally, that's like my all-time favorite. So, as you can see, most of these, the words sound alike. Now, the commenter who had written in last week said, I have a friend who is always using the word pacifically when what she means is specifically. Not just her. Back in the late 60s, I'm sure most of you who were alive then remember the wonderful world of Disney. That was this hodgepodge of everything from Disney movies to documentaries. They had come out with a show called Pacifically Peaking, which was a play on specifically speaking. So that tells you how far back it goes. By the way, that was a documentary on the marine life in the Pacific Ocean. And when I was a small child, marine life in the deep Pacific was absolutely fascinating to me. I was indeed a very odd little kid. Honestly, it's a wonder anybody hung around with me at all. Now, there is a special kind of malaprop, and that's called an eggcorn. Now, we got the term eggcorn from a doctor who coined the term based on a patient of his who said eggcorn for acorn. So the difference between a malaprop and an eggcorn is there is a certain weird logic to an eggcorn. It's like you understand how it is that someone made this mistake, because in their own little universe it makes some sense and we can kind of follow along. So here are some eggcorns. And obviously eggcorn for acorn would be our first one. It does look like a little egg, so that's where she got it. This one is from All in the Family. Archie Bunker had said, in her elastic stockings next to her very close veins. So for varicose veins. And you get that because, maybe he saw the veins as being very close together, but that's what makes it an eggcorn as opposed to a malaprop. Expatriate instead of expatriate. So, formerly you were a patriot, and now, but different meanings. For all intensive purposes instead of for all intents and purposes. On the spurt of the moment instead of on the spur of the moment. Praying mantis with an E as opposed to praying mantis with an A, on the theory that the female praying mantis actually preys on her husband. One of my favorites is old timers, because I've actually had kids say that to me instead of Alzheimer's. So, oh, my grandpa's got old timers disease. And we spoke about this one on, this was a completely different video a long time ago. Hair's breadth. That is a hair, and breadth being a sort of disused word for width. So hair's breadth, with that D in there, means very close, the width of a hair. But you'll hear that as things like hair, H-A-R-E-S, hair, apostrophe S, my apologies, breath, in other words, close as a bunny's breathing. And you can kind of see how that connection is made. My little brother used to call appetizers advertisers. And you try to correct him, and like all little kids, oh no, he was 100% clear, because it was like a commercial for the rest of the meal. Couldn't pull that away from him. He would never eat appetizers, ever. Wouldn't happen. We went into a restaurant when he was young. I had ordered shrimp cocktail as an appetizer, and he wanted to know what my advertiser was, and I pushed my plate over and said, "It's good, try it." Kid picked up a spoon, shoved it in the cocktail sauce, which was heavily laced with horseradish, and shoved that into his mouth before I could stop him. That was not what I had in mind. I wasn't trying to poison my little brother. Oh, he not only spit up, that kid threw up for like 20 minutes. We had to leave the restaurant. It was awful. Yeah, my family had a lot of like weird food stuff. I had a cousin who used to count the peas or corn kernels on your fork. Yeah. This is one of those. Yes, family dinners at my house were really interesting, because Aunt Marion, we've spoken about her, she would be on the other side of the table, blasted out of her head on that spiked eggnog, just smiling. Oh, yeah. And my little brother is crying, screaming, "I don't want what she has. She eats nasty food. I want something different." Then Cousin Jimmy is like 7, 8, 9. Fun. Anyway, advertisers was just his own take on it, and because little kids work things out to make sense for them. So, let's go into the cousin of malaprops. And this is Spoonerisms. Now, Spooner was from Reverend William Archibald Spooner. I've got his dates here too, 1844 to 1930. And he was the warden of New College at Oxford. And Spooner insisted that there was only one error he actually ever made. And the rest were just false attributions. But he had developed a reputation that was so strong, the kids at Oxford, the students there, would actually take to making up Spoonerisms. So a Spoonerism is when you take a part of one word and exchange it for a part of another word. And we talked about this. That's how you end up with words like third coming from three. So, the one that Spooner acknowledged was Kinkering Kongs their titles take, which should have been Conquering Kings their titles take, which apparently he announced publicly when he was announcing the hymn of the day. Now, a Spoonerism needs to flip the words. So the syllable of one word or the first few letters or something like that has to be exchanged with another word. And to be a good Spoonerism, it has to come out as entertaining or amusing. So these are all attributed to Spooner. In all likelihood, they came from those Oxford students who made a sport of making these up. The queer old dean for the dear old queen. It is customary to cuss the bride, for it is customary to kiss the bride. The Lord is a shoving leopard. The Lord is a loving shepherd. A blushing crow for a crushing blow. A well-boiled icicle. A well-oiled bicycle. You are fighting a liar in the quad. You are lighting a fire in the quad. Is the bean dizzy? Is the dean busy? Someone is occupying my pie. Please sew me to another sheet. Someone is occupying my pew. Please show me to another seat. And my all-time favorite was, you have tasted the entire worm, which was supposed to be, you've wasted the entire term. So those are our malaprops, our Eggcorns, and our Spoonerisms. Now, some of them are clearly intentional plays on words, coming from an era when plays on words were all the thing, and just, if somebody could make a pun, they were just so clever. However, as one of our viewers who left a comment pointed out, she's got a friend who clearly has a problem with pacifically and specifically. So people still do this. They do it seriously as part of their speech. Now, as I stated in the beginning, there are people who do this because of illness or disability, and that's not what we're talking about. When we talk about this, we're talking about grammatical errors and not, yes, you can come up, and not anything resembling a health or wellness issue. So that I thought we could have some fun with. Yes, okay. Now, what I would like to get into, because we've got a few minutes left, is we have talked about book club. And a lot of you seem to like the idea of starting a book club. So I thought what we would do is begin by selecting the first book and by selecting a day and time. I can create a video whenever I want to and schedule it to air at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm sound asleep. So choose the time, because I had said, well, we could do it on Tuesday or Thursday, and do it whenever you want. For some reason, I was lost somewhere in the whole concept of real time. Well, this is not real time. This is YouTube. We can air it when you would like. I thought the way we would do it, and of course I am totally open to your input and feedback on this, was we would start by looking at a book that we wanted to deal with, number one. I'm going to throw out a couple of options for you. Would you like to start with a bit of Jane Austen? Or would you like to start with a Pulitzer Prize winning novel that is hysterically funny from the 1960s that I bet a lot of you have never heard of? Or would you like to start with a piece of modern serious fiction? So, 3 things I'm throwing out there. Do you have a genre that you like? Do you like mysteries? Do you like books written by women? Heaven knows, we could start off with some Kerry Greenwood if you want a little bit of Australian. And you know I like Australian. So, give it some thought. I am looking forward to your comments, because this is not my book club I'm shoving on you. This is our book club that we are doing together. And what we'll do is we will choose our book. We will give everyone an opportunity to either go out, get the book, from a bookstore, from Amazon, and downloading. I do know all the pirate sites, by the way. I don't admit this publicly, but I do. Or if it's a book that's in the public domain, I can find you PDF copies of it. So, because I don't want this to be an expensive thing, I started looking at what the cost of books are, and in general, unless we go with, like right now, modern fiction, where are you? Here. Because as it happens, right now, modern fiction, this is the one I just finished, because I absolutely gobble J.K. Rowling. It's just, really, I do. It's a wonder I don't belch when I'm through with reading it, because I just swallow it whole. So something like this, no. Can't find copies of that book yet for, $5 or $6. Most of them I can, because I don't want this to in any way be onerous or burdensome. So, throwing this out here, I've given you some ideas. Maybe you have some ideas you'd like to flip back on me. What we'll do is we'll choose a book, give everyone an opportunity to get the book, then read a chapter or two, then we will get together and start pulling things apart, taking a look at it. Now, what I have to throw into book club is a more scholarly approach to a book as literature, which will cover just about everything from digging into the time period in which the book is set, to information on the author, research on whatever the plot issues are. This one, major underpinning is astrology, which is something I actually taught at one point many years ago in my misspent youth. So, would I have a problem with this? I don't even need to research it. I can do it in my sleep. But that's what I have to bring to the party. What I want to know is what you can share about the books, because this is not just going to be a one-sided, like we're sitting in a classroom and we're going to study a book. I want to be able to open different doors so we can look at different aspects, and we'll play with it. But this is supposed to be fun. And so I don't want anybody to think, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to start studying because there's going to be a test. No, we're going to read a book and we're going to toss around the ideas. So give it some thought. You know what I'm throwing out there. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. And then next time we get together, hopefully we'll narrow this down so that we will have picked a book and picked a rough time, Tuesday evenings, Thursday evenings, 2 o'clock in the morning Wednesday. Like I said, doesn't make any difference to me. I'm not actually going to be making the video at 2 a.m. Wednesday. All right, let's take a look at our beautiful horizon pictures. I will not see you tomorrow, but I hope to see you on Friday. Have a great day.